welcome you to another spiritual revival hour with words and songs of inspiration, consolation, and education. We're always happy to have an opportunity to come back into your homes once again with your program. This is your program. I want to thank you for your prayers as we have been praying together. All of us praying together, trying to stay alive, to overcome the difficulties, trials, and tribulations that all of us are going through with. Those of you who call and say that you enjoy the program, we appreciate your calls. We talked about on last Sunday during our introduction that we were going to involve some young people onto our program. Some new people was coming in to help us out on the program to make sure that we was covering every angle, that the spiritual revival was covering every angle which we have done in the past. We also introduced you to some new people on last week. The young lady that her father came on to talk about her having an accident. She's doing much better. She thank you for your prayers. He's with us doing this production. He's behind the camera. He talked about all of his experience last week. So we want to thank you also. We also mentioned another young man that wasn't with us last week, but he's with us today. And he's been in video production for a very long time. I've been knowing him for a long time. He's done a lot of work in our community, and we're just happy to have him to come on board. Brother Alan Henry. We're going to have him to introduce himself. And Alan, why don't you just tell the audience just who you are and what you do, what you've been doing, and how you plan to work with the Spiritual Revival Hour.
How you doing? My name is Alan Henry, as Dr. Brown just said. I'm CEO of Henry's House Media Productions, also the co-founder and host of Past to Present podcast. What I do now is I reach out to the community, try to help people out through inspiration, motivation, using history to teach us about our current situation. What I would like to do with the Spiritual Revival is try to use some of my program to help others, to reach out to some of you, to inspire you to chase your dreams, to help rebuild our community that has been affected by more than COVID-19, but poverty and other things. Hopefully I can add some education, some influence, and some motivation to inspire you to overcome some of the hurdles that you're affected by. And thank you for the opportunity, by the way, Dr. Brown.
Just how long have you been involved into video and radio and all this kind of stuff?
Well, audio, I've been involved with audio for over 20 years. And the whole story about that is I got tired of paying for studios. You know, studios are ranging $30 an hour when I was recording, and you get poor quality. And then you only have one or two studios you can record at. It just became a thing where I got tired of paying that money, and I just invested in my own studio equipment to make my own music. From there, I kind of grew into the love of media. So then I started working into video. But I wanted to do more than just music. I wanted to get back to the community that I feel like gave me so much. So I wanted to share my knowledge and my love for history and my passion for history with people. Try to use my message and my platform to help the community, help younger people as well as older people to see a different type of light. To see when you're looking at a negative picture, you can find the positive and change the way your point of view on life and help improve your way of living.
Your work have inspired me. I've been in this business too long, but anyway, your work have inspired me, and we met a couple of times. But what's so good about us meeting? You met, you wanted to meet me and to introduce yourself to me, and since that time, you continued to send me some of your work to see what you was doing as you was moving along and making progress. Now, you went on to school, you worked in school. How much education did you get into this?
Well, I went to Wilmington University. I started at Wesley College, and I went to Wesley College. I was focusing mostly on marketing. It's an interesting conversation when you talk about school, because when I first signed up for school, I was going for psychiatry. And the person that did the intake was like, well, if you're going to do psychiatry, you're not going to make any money, and basically talked me out of it. So he said, where's your passion? I said, communication. So I went into communications at Wesley, and I transferred to Wilmington University. I'm about to graduate. I have a math class left, and I'll have a degree in marketing and communications. Also, you influence me. Our conversations influence me as well. After our conversations, you're actually the one who influenced me and convinced me to go more to a video production rather than audio. So you had a huge impact on my show and me producing a better quality show for my audience. So my conversations with you were a huge influence onto me being where I am today. It also keep me motivated to continue to go.
Where you caught my attention was most of the videos you sent me was something positive, something always, my saying is make the positive outshine the negative. And most of your videos that you sent me was always something trying to direct people's mind in the right way. Taking the mind off the wicked things to the positive things. So you convinced me, and when I talked with you about coming, joining the spiritual revival hour, you were the lady to do that. Now, just how you think you can help me out or help the program grow where I want it. You know what I'm trying to do with the program. Happy to have the opportunity to come back on the air. You're a little younger than I am. You have a little more energy than me. But we seem to have the same idea in mind when it comes down to the community.
Absolutely. First, I have to say, I don't know how much younger than you I am. My spin is not as fast, ask my children, I don't run as fast, I don't move as fast anymore. I'm getting kind of old now, so I want to be honest. But no, ways I can help is, first, thank you for the kind words about my show. I appreciate it. The ways I can help is, my show is dedicated to not only working with the youth, but working for older people too. So it's a hybrid show where I have to try to keep motivating, inspiring, talk to the youth and older people. So what I can contribute to your show and contribute to the Spiritual Hour is my ability to be able to adapt to my message to not only just older audience, but to a younger audience. Keeping my hand on the pulse of both what the older generation need as well as the younger generation, and my ability to translate some of the information so that younger people can understand it while not losing the older people or mixing my message down too much where older people fall off. So what I can do is I can bring a lot of what I do on my show to your show. Hopefully I can bring some of my energy into my show, to your show as well. Some of my youthful energy to my show. I think I'll bring a Red Bull in. It gives us wings.
Well, we must work together to change the attitude and the behavior of our young people. This violence is very bad. It's killing a lot of people. But some of our youth have the mindset that it don't involve them. But here in the news here lately, within the last month, we've been seeing where that more young people are getting involved with this violence. There's all older people. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. When we talk about the youth and the rise in the violence and how the youth doesn't always see their part into this, well, we have to understand something. The youth they inherited a broken system. They inherited a broken product where a lot of people figured that they need to be the ones that fix it. We need a lot of the older people to come in and help, to talk to youth, to counsel the youth, not talk at them, but talk to them. We have to look at it like this. How many times can we look at older people and say, hey, have you ever listened to the youth? Listen to their cries, their needs. What is bothering them? What is causing them to be so angry? We have to understand also a lot of these younger people, and these people who are committing these crimes, grew up in the era where the crack era, where our cities, our neighborhoods was ridden by drugs. There wasn't a lot of education. I'm not taught too much about the history. I often ask people, what do you know about yourself? And this is to black people. What do you know about yourself beyond slavery? And most people can't give me an answer. I'm like, see, if you don't know much beyond slavery about yourself, then immediately what you do is you see yourself as an oppressed person. And what an oppressed person does, they don't see hope. They don't see a future. So naturally you're going to go out here, you're going to commit crimes because you don't see any chance of you being anything better. And that's one of the importance of my show, where I talk about Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and not just that it got burned down, but these are black people who created wealth for themselves. And teaching younger people and older people, we have the capabilities of creating something for ourselves. But in order for us to truly turn around the violence in our neighborhoods, we have to get out here, we have to hear the youth cry, and we have to have the older folks come out and not talk at the youth, but talk to them. Sort of how you did with me talking to me and helping me build myself. Like I said, it was a huge influence on me and a huge help. We need more people like you, Dr. Brown, speaking up to help our youth to clean up these neighborhoods.
We have a very important election coming up in November, and all of us have to work together to make sure that things change. Within the last 3 years, we have gone through with some things that's unbelievable. I never thought in my lifetime, and I've been involved in the community over 70-some years, I never thought in my lifetime I would see such things be as confused as things are today. So one of the things we are pushing, and I'm glad to see that you're on board with it, is the voter education and voter registration. You want to elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yes, sir, I would love to. Voter registration is very important. Getting out the vote is very important. And I'm going to speak to a lot of people and make this real quick. We have to be careful of listening to people on social media telling us that we shouldn't vote. It's very important that you can vote right now because your life literally is on the line for this. The way you're living, your way of living, your neighborhood way of living, your school system, and the way your kids will be raised and taught. It's important that we get out, not only register, but get out and vote. Please, people, do not stand by and no longer be a victim and let your voice be silenced.
All right. Well, you're going to be a part of the program. You're going to be doing some things. You're going to be working with the young people that's coming on board with us. I'm just happy to have you on board. I've been following your work for a long time, and we're just pleased to have you to come on board. Friends, we want to, again, thank you for all of your prayers for Kenya Sanders, who have been ill, she had an accident. I want to thank her father for being on the camera for us today. And as we move along on the spiritual revival hour, if you have any suggestions that you would like to share with us or you want us to share with the community, please let us know. Now, Brother Henry Allen, you put a video together, right?
Yes, sir.
On voter education, voter registration. And friends, we're going to go now to this particular video and songs of inspiration and meditation.
We're often told about the importance of vote. We hear it through radio ads, commercials, from our favorite celebrities. We hear slogans like rock the vote, vote or die. All have one mission: to convince us to get out here and vote, convince us to get out here and register to vote, to exercise our voice, to let our voice be heard, to make a push for change. We see politicians walk in our communities, coming to our churches. They come to speak to us. They show interest to us around election time. But it's often when we need them most that we become invisible, that our voices go unheard. When we're going through important moments such as COVID-19, which is affecting us all, a deadly virus that's traveling through the world, affecting many of our loved ones, with no end in sight, affecting the way we live our lives. It's times when we're dealing with poverty, living below the poverty level. It's times when we're dealing with schools that are not properly funded, where our children are not getting the education they need or deserve. It's at times when we think about healthcare, we think about the need for the proper healthcare, where we have to choose whether we want to pay for our healthcare benefits or feed our family, choose whether we should go to doctors or make sure we pay our phone bill or light bill. These are the tough choices that we deal with every day, people. These are the choices that we're affected by. These are the things we are affected by every day. And a lot of times we feel helpless as we try to fight back against these very things that affect our lives. We feel helpless. We feel like our hands are tied behind our backs. But there's a way to fight back, people. I'm here to tell you there is a way to fight back. There's a solution to these problems. We have to have the right people in office to fight back for what we need and what we want. We have to put the right people in office that's going to stand up and fight for us, but we also need to hold people accountable. I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say to me. We vote for these people, or we vote and we don't get the election that we want. We don't win the election, so we get discouraged, or we vote for the people who we think is going to fight for us, who promises everything, the sun, the stars, and the moon, but when they get into office, they forget about us. They ignore our phone calls. They ignore our letters. But my mom told me something. My mom taught me a lesson. She said to me, people only going to do which you allow. And a lot of times we allow politicians to get away with ignoring our phone calls, ignoring our letters. And why can they do that? Because they know that we're not together. We're not banding together to fight back and let our voice be heard, not as individuals, but as one. And see, this is how elections are supposed to mean, and this is what they're supposed to stand for. Us not breaking up as individuals, but us coming together as one to speak up. Speak up for proper change that not only affects our lives, affects everyone's lives in a proper way. We got a lot going on in our world. We talked about COVID-19. What about racism? What about racism? What about black people being killed by rogue police officers? We need change. Of course, we see statues coming down. And it's important that these statues that celebrate hate are coming down. But we also need legislation to truly protect us, to make us feel safe. We need legislation and rules change that protect police officers that's going to speak up against the rogue police officers. Protect their jobs. Protect their lives so they feel comfortable with speaking up. We need things to change, people, but things are not going to change if we choose to remain silent, if we still choose to remain on the sidelines. We have to get into the game. We have to speak up. So if you're not registered to vote, the time is now to get out and get registered to vote. And I understand, people, some of you are going to say, well, what about voter suppression? What about voter suppression? We know all about voter suppression, don't we? We know about the Voters Act in 1965. We know about how they were trying to put literacy tests into voting so that if you couldn't pass a literacy test, you couldn't vote. We know how they were trying to base voting on your income. We know all the different things and all that they're trying to do right now in their current life to try to change and affect the way we vote. But see, that should tell you something, people. That should tell you how important your voice is, how important it is for us to vote. How much voting actually affects change, not only in our lives, but in our community. Our communities are starving. Whether you live in an urban neighborhood or a rural neighborhood, no matter where you live, right now your communities are being affected. Your schools are being affected. Your children's future is being affected. This is not a time that we can stand by and act like we don't need anything or we don't need for change. When Obama ran for presidency, we went out in droves. We came out in droves voting because we believed in the hope that he stood for, the promise that he was going to change, the symbol that he stood for. But we didn't understand, and we need to understand now that we must fight to continue for hope to come, for change to come in our lives. We have to start and continue to fight. See, silence is evil's greatest ally, because as long as we remain silent, nothing changes. Nothing happens. We're forced to settle for a life that we're not deserving of. We're forced to deal with our current consequences and situations. We're forced to suffer through poverty. We're forced to suffer through choosing whether we're going to pay for a phone bill or electric bill or rent or going to doctors to get proper health care, being able to pay for prescriptions that were needed. It's important that we speak up, people. It's important that you let your voice be heard. It's important that you no longer stand by and let someone else dictate your life, your children's life. I'm not going to sit here and try to appeal to the past. I'm not going to sit here and harass you about history, about the women's suffrage movement, where women fought for the right to vote, where women in not only America but Europe, they stood up and fought, protests. Some of them starved themselves, that were beaten, murdered, put in jail, for you to have the right to vote. I'm not going to appeal to that. I'm not going to appeal to the fact that some of us black ancestors went out and fought, died, were beaten, forced into jail while protesting and fighting for us to have the right to vote. I'm not going to appeal to that. I'm going to appeal to what you're dealing with now, your present, your future. Your present right now is you're dealing with soldiers who are fighting wars. You have family members right now who are overseas fighting in wars that you want to bring home. You want to bring them home safely. You want to be able to have a good income. You want to be able to give your child a bright future. You want to be able to pay your bills and have a little left over. You don't want to live under the poverty line. You want to go out, and if you call the police to feel safe, if you get pulled over by police, you get a traffic ticket, or you get your due date in court and not be murdered. You want to finally see an end to this dark tunnel called COVID-19. There's some things we all want. There's something we all want. But we all have to speak up to see change. This is not the time for us to sit here and complain about how bad things are or how things didn't work out for us before. We got to stand up and fight back against voter suppression. We got to fight back against racism. We got to fight back by letting our voice be heard. Speak up, people. We can't stand on sideline. We can't afford to be silent any longer. I know, people, the past has been harsh. We have no reason to trust the politicians that we elect. We have no reason. Because if we focus on our past, if we look at our past, if we look at our present, we know that all we received is broken promises. But we have to take accountability. We have to take accountability even in those broken promises, because we're only given what we allow them to feed us. And if we continue to give our votes away for free and not hold them accountable for their promises, not hold them to the standard that we need, then we're going to continue to receive the same outcome we're receiving. We have to speak up. We have to hold them accountable. We have to band together. We have to end this separation that we're dealing with in this world. We're not getting anywhere separate. We have to band together. Because no matter where you are, your color of your skin, your financial class, where you live, somewhere in your life, you're being affected by all the negative things that's happening in today's world. And you need and you want a change. The time has come for us to fight back for this change, for us to speak up and finally get this change that we've been asking for, people. The time is now where we have to stand up and vote. Let your voice be heard. Fight back against voter suppression. Today's the day, people. If you haven't registered to vote, get out and register to vote. Hold our politicians' feet to the fire. Hold them accountable so we can make the changes, so we can have a better tomorrow for us, for you, and for our future children and grandchildren. I want to thank you for listening. Until next time I see you, people, I only got one thing left to say to you. Stay tuned. Peace.